Jason, I appreciate you being on the show with me again. Remind everybody who you are and what you do.
Hey, I'm Jason Brick. I'm the host of Safest Family on the Block, and that's a podcast that you've been on. And for listeners who haven't heard that fantastic two-part episode that we shared,
Mhm.
Safest Family on the Block is what happens when a guy with almost 40 years of martial arts experience, 12 years of journalism, and a little more than 20 years of parenting starts talking to safety experts about how to keep his family safer. And so one week we'll have martial artist on to talk about self-defense. Next week, we'll have a suicide counselor on to talk about signs of prevention. And then the week after that, we'll talk to somebody who works in elder care about finding the right facility for your family.
That is very cool. And, I recently had Dawn Armstrong on the show, and she talked to us about, protecting your parents. And so
Mhm.
the whole idea of protecting the generation that is older than you is very important. And I'm glad that you're addressing it too.
I just actually had the pleasure of interviewing Dave McNeil, who's one of my personal heroes for years and years, a very advanced martial artist who recently retired from being the head of a major martial arts organization, about caring for your elders and about that transition where our parents have protected us our entire lives, but somewhere between 40 and 60 for us, we start being a little responsible for them. And he had a really great talk with him about, as an elite martial artist for his entire life, he is just now needing to look to his kids for his own personal safety,
Mhm.
and how to help navigate what's a very difficult time for them.
Yeah, and that's just interesting because and that's what Safest Family on the Block does, Secure Dad does, is it's really a whole perspective on protecting for your entire family, which is it's something that we all need. So the last time you were on the show, we were talking about lessons learned. So what is something that you have learned since the last time you were on the show, which by the way was back in November of 2020? It's been a
Yeah, like
while.
a year and a half. Now, there were so many, and I've been struggling. You sent me this question ahead of time. I've been struggling to pare it down. But there were 4 points that really I wanted to share. And the first one was, I'm not sure how that I learned this or it just reinforced something I already believed, but just how chill and friendly and giving dangerous people are.
Mm. Hmm.
I mean, you and I both, we bring on people these are stone badasses. These
Hmm.
are people who you could write an action movie about some parts of their lives. And they're just the friendliest, nicest, most
Uh-huh.
caring, most giving humans.
Uh-huh. Very
Yeah.
true. Very true. Yeah, there's one guy I know who's probably one of the most dangerous people I know.
Mhm.
And he is just so kind and he's very
Yeah.
humble and he's very quiet and he'll speak to you.
Mhm.
But like I've seen him in action and it's
Mhm.
like, wow, I really do not want to upset this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even gotten to the point where if I'm talking to somebody who's selling products or whatnot, or courses or consulting based on security and their ability to be dangerous, and they're not really chill, friendly, giving people, it makes me wonder how legitimate
Hmm.
their experience and qualifications really are.
Right. It's kind of like the people that have to prove that they're tough are not the ones who are actually tough. The tough ones are the
Yeah.
quiet ones who just sit back watching. Yeah, I had Tim Larkin on the show and
Mm.
he was the same way. He was just so kind and so generous with his time. And like I genuinely felt like a better person after talking with Tim. And here he is, like, the master of all these martial arts. He's taught thousands of people, could, beat me up with, both of his hands behind his back. And he was
Mm.
just a wonderful person. That's a great observation.
I'm very happy about that. It's
Mhm.
it's it kind of reinforces some things that we were taught to believe about martial arts training.
Mhm.
Much more Mr. Miyagi, much less Cobra Kai.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Paint the fence. Um,
Yeah.
so you and I
Mhm.
are working on a project together right now. You reached
Yeah.
out to me and several other people. You're spearheading this
Mhm.
project for a pretty interesting book. Why don't you tell us about it?
So the book's called There I Was When Nothing Happened. And what I've done is I've gotten 40 different experts and professionals about violence, stone certified badasses. And each of them comes and contributes a story from their life about a time that they use skills like avoidance, preparation, de escalating language, avoiding injury through rapid flight to prevent violence. And this came from, again, the same thing we were just talking about that I've learned from interviewing all of these people. They all, they talk a little bit about using violence, but mostly they talk about avoiding violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to tell you that the security and martial arts and safety field starts more often than not once the violence begins.
Mm-hmm.
But the skill set that comes before that is so much larger, so much more important, and so much more reliable for keeping you and your family safe that it needs more addressing. And so I asked all these folks, and they all came in with these great stories about a time they avoided having to go hands-on.
Right. And it's funny because the whole idea of, there I was when nothing happened, really it's hard for people who really practice being nice and who practice situational awareness to have these amazing stories, because they see everything in advance and they are ready for it. And so there's not, oh, hey, I, fought off 6 people at the bar at Chili's. It was, hey, I had to tell some guys, whatever, be cool, and I'm out the door, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great title.
It riffs off a lot of stuff. Of course, everybody's got that, oh yeah, there I was story. But there I was when I bought a couple of guys a beer and told them a joke. It doesn't scan, it doesn't translate as much.
Right.
And I've said for a while, that every story that ends with "so I kicked his butt" starts with "so I screwed up a perfectly good de-escalation plan."
Yes. Yes, I can see that. And I would honestly rather tell more stories about telling people jokes than telling people about fights that I've been in and things like that. I think that's a bigger something that takes a lot more responsibility and a lot more street smarts to get out of than to actually go in there with fists flying and that sort of thing. So when the book comes out, what are you wanting people to learn from the stories that you've gotten from these folks?
So I've got kind of a meta thing and a technical thing. And at the meta level, I think more young men, especially, but some young women, 20s, need to see the example of people who are unquestionably dangerous choosing not to fight. It's a message that we don't see often enough. We get some lip service to it, but you watch any movie, any action martial arts movie, there's a time where the hero is saying they don't want to be violent, but eventually they get moved to violence, and that's what we're all there for. Where I want that example to be out there more in front.
Right.
And then this, no, please.
No, you're saying you were talking about with young men, and that's really important because young men think they're bulletproof. And I was that way once. I recently hit a milestone birthday, and so I'm thinking differently now. And so I saw a meme somewhere. Gosh, maybe it was even Randy King that said this. Maybe he tweeted it. It's like some of the best things to do to be safe is to turn 35 or something like that, because you just kind of get that whole fist of fury thing out of your mind, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I need to be a little bit more chill. But go ahead, please continue.
No, absolutely agree. The stupid stuff we did as kids. My college roommate was a 6'7" jiu-jitsu guy, and here I was a high school wrestler. The stuff we did, I am shocked that we survived. Right. But yeah, that example from the truly dangerous people that no, just walk away. And then the second thing is the way I'm structuring the book is in 5 sections, and those sections are preparation, awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, and escape. And the stories will fall into each of those. And over the course of the stories, with some notes that I'll be adding as an editor, consulting with various people, it's also a workbook, an instruction manual for how to think about avoiding conflict, giving, teaching by concept as well as illustrative examples from people who were there and did that. And so it's not only just kind of this message that we should be emphasizing this, but it also gives very specific details on how one could.
And that's good because you can set it up and here's a great story, but here's also the blueprint for you using this in your life to get out of it and having that example to read and go through. Man, that's going to be pretty good. And you talked about how you were sectioning out the book and the 5 different parts. Explain what those 5 different parts mean, not just for your book, but for a person in real life.
Absolutely. And so again, they're preparation, awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, and escape. And like any set of categories is arbitrary, right? I could have had 10 categories, I could have had 2, but this seemed to work. And just from a publishing nerd standpoint, it works because of how the nature of the stories that came in and how it was reasonable and feasible to categorize them. But these 5 concepts kind of spell out the time before an attack. And it starts with preparation. And those are just, what do you know about the area? What do you know about yourself? What do you know about the other people involved? You mentioned Randy King. His story is going to centers around how he stopped a full-on bar brawl in a place where the local Hells Angels and the local college rugby team often hung out on the day of a funeral for the biker club.
Oh my goodness.
How he managed to prevent that from turning into a scene from Roadhouse by knowing the guy to talk to at the biker club from his years of working at this particular club and knowing all the players. So that preparation allowed him to prevent a potentially murderous catastrophe.
Gosh, yes.
Right. And other things you can do, like getting on Google Earth and calling the concierge when you travel, so that you can avoid even being in a dangerous place. So that preparation comes first. And part of that preparation, although the book doesn't cover it, is, of course, if you train, you are less likely to be targeted because of the way you walk, because of the way you make eye contact, because of the way you move. And then so that's preparation. And then you get into awareness, where we spend a little more time a lot. That situational awareness, that head on a swivel thing, that mindful curiosity of seeing. So you're sitting in the bar and you see 3 guys walk in, you can just tell that they've been having a bad day, and they go up to the bar, they pound a shot right there at the bar, grab themselves a shot and a beer, and go sit in the corner and start muttering about something. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Because those guys are up to no good. Right. You're in a conversation. If you're a woman, you're at a party and there's a guy who's standing inside your personal space, not taking no for an answer. It's time to go. Or it's time to move yourself into the party next to people who will be more helpful. If you think rightfully that you have the right to stay at this party just as much as this jerk, but it's time to take some kind of steps to see to your safety when you perceive that first thing, so it doesn't get out of hand. And then, situational awareness is an area that we've seen some work on, and recently a lot more work up. Gary Quisenberry's books, Spotting Danger Before It Spots You, Spotting Danger Before It Spots Your Kids. Next month, April 1st, Spotting Danger Before It Spots Your Teens comes out. So some folks are starting to do that. Left of Bang is another book. So we've been seeing a little more coverage of that. And then you've got avoidance, and that's where you actually leave the bar. That's where you cross the street, where awareness, and preparation are kind of often happen before real trouble starts. And then you kind of got your condition orange, where it's like, okay, that over there, that's a problem. And then you find ways to escape. And then that's where your contribution is going to go.
Okay, very cool.
Because there you were, I won't give any spoilers. It's a great story. But you were there. There is a problem right there.
Yeah,
and I'm going to take these steps to not be there when that problem becomes a problem.
Right.
And then we get into de-escalation, and that's you're using humor, using calming language. That's mad guy at a bar, and you tell him, hey man, I really am sorry. I was just staring off into space. I wasn't staring at you. How's your day? That's that connection with those people, or that diffusing through humor, whatever works. And we got a bunch of really good stories in there. And then finally, escape. It's okay, this person is not going to be calmed down. I do not want to fight. I have my running shoes on and I'm not afraid to use them.
Yeah.
Right. A great little one thing that kind of surprised me is we got these great stories, but we also got these little hacks, little tricks of the trade. And one of them was great from Jason Hansen, the guy from who wrote Spy Secrets That Can Save Your Life. Carries a $5 bill around. And if somebody's kind of in their space and he's thinking it's time to disengage, he'll drop it and say, hey, is that yours? Because human eyes will follow that bill. And while they're following that bill, his feet are moving in the other direction at speed. And I'd pay $5 to not get in a fight.
Yeah, you actually shared that when you were on my show the first time. And
great.
I had a situation where there was a guy who was out of his mind on something, and he had a wrench in a parking lot, and he was just spinning that wrench and doing all this weird stuff, indicating that he is on a mind altering substance. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to use that $5 trick that Jason talked about if this dude gets any closer. Like, I had that plan in mind when it happened. So yeah, that's a fantastic hack. Keep whatever it is, even if it's $20. If that keeps somebody, a crazy guy, from beating you with a wrench who doesn't understand where he is or what's going on, that's $20 well spent.
I mean, man, my copay is $20.
Yeah. Very true. Very
so
true.
if I throw $5 on the ground, that's a, what is that? A 200% return on 400% return on investment right there.
Yep. Very true. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people, when you can take your ego out of the situation and see, wait a minute, what's my copay? Because even if I win this engagement, I'm probably still going to have to go to urgent care, or I might have to take a ride in an ambulance. It's not worth that. And I think that's what a lot of these stories in the book are going to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them kind of go just the facts route, while others talk a lot about their internal dialogue, their internal monologue about what they were thinking at the time. And my story is actually about, well, I've got two stories. I haven't figured out which one is going in yet. But one of them was, I was living in Japan teaching. I was actually coaching a karate team at a high school in Japan, which was fun.
I bet.
And I was in a situation where two guys were threatening me, telling me they were Yakuza, Japanese mafia. I'm like 70% sure that they were. It's very possible that they were also just shining me on being drunk. But going through the back of my head was, it had been drummed into us again and again and again, because the place I was teaching was very near a military base. So they had situations, was that I would have my visa revoked immediately if I got into a fight under any circumstances. And I was having a really good time. So I'm sitting here thinking, and at the time I was a second-degree black belt. I had gone to Japan. I was coaching a Japanese karate team as a white guy. So it's not like I didn't have chops.
Right.
But that was my monologue, the thing that I had to lose if this jumped, and also the fact that they're freaking Yakuza, and even if I won that fight, they might shoot me later.
Right.
And what I did was I pretended to speak really bad Japanese and misunderstand them until they got frustrated, swore at me, and left.
That's really good. Yeah, just frustrating. Like, oh gosh, this guy isn't even worth our time now. Yeah.
Very like cool. They were threatening me, and I'd respond with things like, "Oh yeah, I like this town very much." Just completely like I didn't understand them at all.
Yeah, where's the bus station? Yeah,
yeah.
All the things, the touristy things. That's good.
Exactly, and it worked. But that was an example of that monologue in the back of your head about, you got the shoulder devil telling you, you got to fight this guy. He's threatening your authority. He's peeing on your lawn. But then the other side about, okay, so realistically, what can I gain from this? What can I lose from this? And what we can lose is almost always real and important from getting in a fight, as opposed to the things that you can gain from getting in a fight are almost always largely illusionary.
Very true. Very true. Going back to the conversation that I had, with Tim Larkin, he was saying, if you're ever really in a situation where you have to fight for your life, you're not going to feel honorable afterward. There's this illusion, just like you said, that you're going to gain all this stuff in a fight that's not really there. And at the end, you're probably just going to feel like, man, I'm just glad I survived that encounter. So yeah, that's really good. Do you want to share with us the other story that you're thinking about, or are you going to hold that one?
I'll tease it a little bit, and this is probably the one I'm going to use. Where this is back in my 20s, before I went to Japan, but at the time I was still, I still had rank in a martial art, and I'd been a moderately successful kickboxer in the area, and I was dating the wrong woman. To the effect that I went to a party she wanted to go to, and she was around bragging about her badass martial arts boyfriend to everybody who'd listen, which resulted in a local gangbanger confronting me and showing me his pistol and saying to me, "Well, tell me this, Mr. Karate Man, can you block a bullet?" And I got really nerdy about how, well, I can't, but I just the other day learned how, like, in theory you could do it, and talked about, you relax your whole body so when a bullet hits you, it turns your body and it hurts like hell. It'll break your ribs, but it won't penetrate you. It'll keep on going. Just And just spitting this tale to the guy while being really super nerdy and non-threatening. I like got my body very small and like pushed my glasses up with one finger at one point. And and I swear to God, if my girlfriend hadn't stopped me, I think I could have talked him into letting me shoot him.
That's fantastic. That's what, because you just sat there, you didn't engage his threat. Obviously, that was a threat. You decided not to engage it, and you decided to put that back on him, and that took away, it sounds like, a lot of his momentum, right?
Yeah. Well, he was trying to big himself up. And so I made myself small and nerdy and kind of childlike and engaged him around that. And then got him enthusiastic about the concept, right? For reals, man, you can do that? No, I can't do that. I couldn't do that in a million years. I die, but
but here, let me hold your pistol. I'll show you. We'll try it. Let's just see for science.
Yeah.
Let's do it for science here. Yeah. But no, I mean, that's good, because I think in that case, this guy's approaching you. He's thinking, okay, I'm going to say this, then X is going to happen. But that doesn't happen. And all of a sudden, everything shifts. He's no longer thinking about threatening you. He's no longer thinking about anything. He's now locked onto this concept that you're pitching to him. And therefore, any sort of confrontation just kind of goes out the window. I like that.
It worked at the time. It wasn't the nicest thing I've ever done, but it worked.
Right. It worked.
But those ideas of what you want to do, you can change the conversation. I think it's Mark McYoung who I first heard from, that it's impossible to reason with a drunk.
Yeah.
But it's pretty easy to confuse them.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, just say, oh yeah, whatever, and then just start talking about something else. That's very good. But there's some people that just can't be reasoned with. You can't talk your way out around them. It's just confuse them and surround them and then leave. That sort of thing.
Yeah, just get out of there. Yeah, Mark tells a story about he's working a bar, and a guy is really mad about the government for some reason. It was a tax thing, or maybe they were taking a strip of his front lawn to make a sidewalk out of. I can't remember. But the guy was drunk and unreasonable about the government. And he was getting antsier and antsier and more aggressive and more aggressive. And Mark said, hey, why don't you just go down to town hall and tell him? It's like, yeah, I should do that. Yeah, it's just like a mile and a half away, man. Just go out. And the guy marches off.
That works. Sometimes just agreeing with people like, oh, yeah, that's a terrible thing. Let's go do that right now. Let me encourage you to go do that. And then all of a sudden they think they have a friend. That's really cool. So can you give us any more can you tease any more stories that are going to be in the book, or do you got to keep this stuff kind of close to your vest?
So I'll think about a couple of them. There's your story was great, and I'm going to make sure that all your listeners have to buy the book to hear it, because it's fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Let me see here. And I'll give kind of short Reader's Digest versions, because a lot of the beauty of it's in the stories themselves. But Stephen Barnes, who was a very successful science fiction writer, and he's been a martial artist for more than half a century. Talks about he's getting mugged in Oakland at 2 a.m, and says to the guy, hey, man, what do you really need from me? I mean, if you need a few bucks to make it to tomorrow, you're welcome to them. Is that what you really need from me right now? Because I don't want this to be a mugging. I want this to be two people helping each other out. What do you need? And we have a very important conversation in that about how he was able to do that, because at that point he had a lot of martial arts training and had plan B ready to go. And so he was able to stay calm in that situation because of that. And then a very good chance that engagement worked, in part because this mugger, this young man who was trying to take his money, could also see that, and that his calmness in the situation was a discrepant event and changed his script. And that ended with the guy saying, $5?
Again,
hey man, go with God.
Yeah. $5, man, gets you that's money well paid. Again, here we go. Keep cash on you. That's cool.
And a lot of those in the ones that fall in the de-escalation section often have that you just change the script slightly, and in a way that short circuits them very briefly.
Right. Very cool. So, all right. So give us the download. When does the book come out? Where can people get it? All that good stuff.
All right. So we're doing this on Kickstarter. It's independently published, and that Kickstarter runs begins on February 22nd.
Okay.
So a week from today that we're recording, and then it'll run until March. And we're doing something I'm proud of. This I've done a handful of Kickstarter anthologies in the past. This is my first one in the security sphere. That everybody who backs us before we reach our funding goal, for each person that does that, I'm gifting a copy of the book to a library.
Oh, cool.
And so if you come in those first few hours, then you'll also be able to help get the book into libraries or to martial arts school in your area or to a high school in your area, whatever you deem best for your community. We'll send a book that way.
That is awesome. All right, cool. So where can people find out more about you and the Safest Family on the Block?
So we're on YouTube, Safest Family on the Block. There's a Safest Family on the Block page on Facebook. You can find me, Jason Brick, on Facebook. I think there's 3, maybe 4 Jason Bricks, but I'm the only one who talks with equal passion about martial arts and tabletop role-playing games. So you can find my nerdy butt pretty easily. We have a website, safestfamilyontheblock.org. It's up, but is largely under construction. I'm not as proud of it as I should be yet. And then if you do a search for There I Was When Nothing Happened on the Kickstarter, we've already got the preview page up where you can sign up for announcements. And for that, I'll be sending out an announcement a couple of hours before we go live so that anybody who wants to get those books for their libraries can get right on and do it.
Very cool, sir. Jason, man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you talking to me and for putting this book together, because I really feel like this is something that people really, truly need. And I commend you for doing it, bud.
Well, thank you very much. I feel the same way. What's the old thing about, if you can't find the book you want to read, yeah, it's on you to go write it. And
I like it.
I'm not writing a lot of it, but because of what we talked about before, how giving and generous dangerous people are. I'm awestruck by the talent that's come on board. I mentioned a few people, but Tony Blauer's in there. Nick Hughes is going to be there. Rory Miller jumped in.
Very cool.
So yeah, so it's going to be really great. I'm very excited about it. Thank you for being a part of it.
Sure, man. Yeah, I'm actually excited that, I am a part of it, but also like, man, I'm sitting here thinking, I want to read Randy King's story. I want to know how he diffused that bar fight. I'm like, man, that's only something he could do. But Jason, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Take care.